Hiccups are a pediatric problem that a lot of times is going to show up before your baby's even born. And the reason that you're concerned about them is it really ticks them off. Now, my mom had this theory that hiccups were a sign that you were growing, which I liked that theory when I was smaller, until I got fully grown and I realized that the only way that I could grow was out. Now I like hiccups a lot less. But let's talk about what a hiccup actually is. A hiccup is a diaphragmatic spasm, okay, that then is followed by a reflexive snapping shut of your vocal cords. And that's what makes the sound, okay? Now, the diaphragm is the muscle that's between your abdomen and your lungs, and it's what's responsible for making you breathe. Now, what can trigger a hiccup? Well, drinking too fast, drinking too much, spicy food, caffeine, swallowing too much air, and even being scared. Now, the interesting thing about hiccups is some of those old wives' tales that you've heard your whole life, they actually may have some scientific merit. Like, take for instance the one where you put a teaspoon of sugar on your tongue. Well, if your hiccup was actually caused by something spicy, as you swallow that sugar, it could soothe your esophagus and decrease that spasm. Another thing that you'll hear is holding your nose and drinking smoothly. Well, if it was caused by drinking or swallowing too hard or too fast, that smooth swallowing may very well ease the esophagus and diaphragm and stop it from happening. And then everybody's heard the one where you scare somebody. Well, if a scare can cause a diaphragmatic spasm, then maybe a scare can also reverse it. Unfortunately for my mom, that whole hiccuping and growing, other than happening a lot the first month of life while you're growing, hasn't really panned out as a cause or a sign that you're growing. Is there anything you can do for a hiccup? Well, maybe. You could burp your baby a little more frequently to try and prevent some of that swallowing of air. You could try and make sure that you don't let the level of the nipple of your bottle get where it's sucking air. This is also where there's a special bottle called a Dr. Brown's bottle, where it's internally vented and has some positive pressure flow, where if your baby's getting hiccups a lot, you could try and use one of those bottles to see if you could cut it down a little bit. But otherwise, it's something that's going to happen a lot. Eventually your baby figures out that they're the one that's causing it, and they decrease tremendously after your baby's about a month of age.